This is where I slept last night. Good morning, everybody. Last night we stayed at the Wiley Dykes Senior Campsite, and we actually met some new friends, Brian and Bob. One of them was a subscriber to the channel, and it was really cool to hang out with them and sit around the campfire, and slept pretty good. Still have a hole in my air mattress, so I'm debating going to just a foam pad. We'll see. We are currently doing a little 13-mile Nero into Oviedo, something. And Tripod's friend is gonna come pick us up, and then we're gonna go to the airport and pick up Wizard, and then we're gonna stay at his friend's house for a couple days and then get back out on the trail. So that's the plan for today. Yeah, the section of trail is very interesting because it's kind of in the middle of a residential area, and Bob and Brian were able to hike in from their homes to this campsite. That's how close it is from like neighborhoods and houses and stuff. So it's weird because you look out here and it looks like, you know, you're kind of out in the middle of nowhere, but there's houses all over here, and just kind of a reminder how important it is to preserve this part of Florida and not develop every last inch of the state. You know, it's important to keep areas like this wild, and good on Florida for allowing that to happen thus far for this little section here. Just keeps going and going. This is the longest plank walk ever.
Got the tropical looking backyard.
Mm-hmm. There's just this bell. On a trail, it's got all these encouraging words on it. This is a really cool section of trail. There's all sorts of other trails, mountain bike trails. It's really pretty. I love it out here. Yeah, actually, I might jump in that.
Yeah, still ain't funny.
If it was really, really hot.
Didn't they say they saw some of the biggest gators out here too?
Okay, so the trail is technically closed, but everybody says just go anyway. So this is the ravine we have to get down. Not too bad.
Fans, get up there. Contemplation.
Yeah. Can I get up? I could. Too much effort. Hey y'all, we did like 12 miles this morning, and we ended up at this Econ gas station right off trail, and we are just waiting on Tripod's friend to come pick us up. We sip some Gatorades. Yeah. Love this section so far. And then of course the next section we'll have is the walk straight through Orlando, but I have to wait a couple days for that because we are gonna be resting our feet and just hanging out. What's up, y'all? We're at Brandon and Heather's house in Orlando for our Zero. So I thought it'd be a good time to answer any questions that you guys had about the hike thus far. I put a question box up on my Instagram. So if you're not following me on there, I throw the question box up every now and then, all to ask me questions. So yeah, let's hop right into the questions. Is this trail harder than the AT? Both have different unique challenges. I'll talk more about it later because I know there's a lot of questions about it, but one challenge on this trail has been my feet. I underestimated the flat walking and the road walks. Flat walking and road walks hurt. They are not easy at all. And I guess I just wasn't really expecting that. You know, everybody says Florida's flat. Flat you think is gonna be easy because you know, I did the AT and did all that ascending and descending. But flat walking hurts worse. I would rather be climbing up and down because it doesn't hurt your foot as bad. I don't know which one is harder. I'll wait till I'm done with the Florida trail and then maybe I'll be able to answer that question. Why did you pick this trail? I've had my eyes on the Florida trail for a while now, and after I lived here in Florida last summer and I worked a 3-month travel contract at a hospital in Sebring, I just fell in love with the state of Florida. There's so much to do here. I did a lot of kayaking. It was the heat of summer, so I didn't do much hiking, but I did make it out to the Florida trail in Ocala one time. It's on the west corridor. And I did a little day hike out there and I was like, I want to do this trail. And so that's when I started to plan and do research and stuff like that. And now here I am. Is it crocodiles or alligators in Florida? So actually both. There are crocodiles down in the Everglades, I believe. And like southern Florida, I think they might be up higher now, I'm not sure, but mostly alligators, especially like in central Florida and stuff, they're all alligators. So happy for you. I just moved from South Florida to KC. Most surprising aspect of the trail? Well, first of all, thank you and congratulations. Most surprising aspect of the trail, probably the Florida trail community. It is so strong down here, and I'll say, you know, the hiking community is smaller down here. There's a lot of other things to do in Florida, and a lot of people, you know, don't hike, but there are a bunch of people who do, and the hiking community down here is amazing. They're so supportive, and they just want to help the Florida Trail through hikers. There's so many people down here just so excited about the trail, so excited that more people are finding out about it. And they just go out of their way to help hikers. And that's been so surprising because a lot of people in Florida don't know about this trail. When I lived in Florida and was working at the hospital, I would tell people, yeah, I'm looking at the Florida trail. Nobody knew what it was. But those that are involved in hiking, the Florida Trail Association, I mean, I literally can't say enough about those folks. They are amazing. And it makes me want to come down here and be a part of it because it's just something special. So that's been probably the most surprising part of the trail so far. Does the flat/lack of views get boring compared to the AT/PCT? No. So Florida is flat, but it's definitely anything but boring. This trail has been the most exciting and eventful, or just like every day you never know what you're gonna see on trail, and that really has a lot to do with the wildlife. There's just so much wildlife out here, especially night hiking. It's actually kind of scary out here because there's wild boar. I've had a pack of wild boar run right in front of me, like 20 feet in front of me. Deer, armadillos, possums, raccoons, different snakes, different frogs, you name it, it's always out there. And it's just like, it seems like every day we see something super cool out in nature, something happening. And even though the terrain is flat, every day is so different out here. Like one day you're on the levees, and then the next day you're in the swamp, and then you're in this dense forest of pine trees, and then you got the big oak hammocks, and from the oak hammocks you have the Spanish moss and the ivy, and then there's flowers, and then there's streams and lakes, and it's incredible. It really is. And I've learned a lot about Florida and just like what it really is out here. Because I guess in my mind, before I came out here, I thought Florida was like all beaches and stuff. And then you just think like the hiking is all flat and kind of boring. But it really is anything but. It's so cool. I don't know. Like, you just never know. You turn a corner, you walk a mile up the trail, and it's like a whole different world. So I've really enjoyed it, and I really haven't not gotten bored at all out here. How do you avoid alligators? So the alligators actually avoid you. They're very scared and docile creatures. Of course, that is if you don't do anything dumb. Like, you don't want to get in the water at night. That's when they're the most active. You're not going to want to like heckle with them or anything, but most of the time they're just chilling by the water, far off the trail. As soon as they see you, they're going to jump into the water. And I always have to creep up on them because I'm always trying to get like a video or picture of. Everybody's scared of alligators. They're just not scary. They leave you alone. Like, I don't know. They're just cute little dinosaurs. Any advice or resources to get from the couch to a trailhead? So I actually made a video about how I trained for this thru hike. It's a couple videos ago. I'll link it in the description, but I think if you have the opportunity to get on a trail, do that. You know, just hike as much as you can. And if you want to do the Florida hike, the Florida trail specifically, not even getting on a trail, but getting on a road and just walking around your neighborhood or on a bike path or something, that's really going to help you. Maybe put a little bit of weight on your back to see how your feet are going to react, get your shoes dialed in, and that's going to really help. Something you know now that you wish you knew when you started. I wish I would have known that my shoes were going to be toast after Big Cypress. So I started with a pair of Adidas Turex. They're one of my favorite hiking trail runner boot hybrids. And I wore them on the AT, I wore them on the PCT. They're tried and true to me. I know that they work with my foot. But the particular pair I started with already had 350 miles on them from the PCT last year, and as did the insoles, and those even had a little bit more mileage on them because I had those back on the AT. Well, those shoes were all but destroyed after the swamp. Not like completely, but a week after the swamp, because you get out of the swamp and then you're on a road walk for a long time, and you're on the levees and this hard packed dirt road. And I think, you know, being in the water all that time that they were, the rubber softened, and then you get on the asphalt and it just shaves the tread right down. And within a week, my shoes went to being okay to being terrible, and my feet were hurting so bad, and I was walking on this little thin strip of rubber. So looking back now, I wish I would have had another pair of shoes ready and sent out after Big Cypress. So I think the best way that you can do this, if you plan to do the trail, is to have some shoes that are kind of at the end of their life, run them through Big Cypress, and then have a new pair of shoes ready for you after that. It actually kind of worked out in my favor because I didn't do that, obviously. My feet did get to a point where they hurt really bad. But I realized at that point that I didn't really want a trail runner. I kind of wanted a hybrid between a road shoe and a trail runner, something with a little extra cushion, because I realized that my feet were really hurting too from the flat terrain and the road walks. Is the trail everything you expected? The trail is everything that I expected and more. I mean, I love this trail more and more every day. You know, I expected it to be kind of tropical and different than anything I ever had hiked before. It definitely is that, but it's been so enjoyable. Met so many cool people out here, and it just feels like a vacation. How much of the trail is underwater? So I pretty much just bet that my feet are going to be wet every single day, at least at one point on the trail. you can just pretty much expect that any low piece of ground in Florida is going to be underwater. And I don't know percentage wise, but yeah, you're probably going to run into a wet spot every other day, especially if it rains. Yeah, you're probably going to be walking through ankle deep water in some spots. Do you love it as much as the AT hike? So one thing that I'm trying to do on this trail is not compare it to my previous through hikes, because when I was on the PCT, I did that a lot. I was comparing that hike to the AT, and I talked to somebody and they're like, you just can't do that. Every hike that you go on is an adventure and experience of its own. So I'm really trying to stay true to that, not making any comparisons, but I will say I'm having so much fun on this hike, and it's been such a good thing for me. The only thing is I wish James was out here. Is it safer than the AT and PCT, or do the gators and panthers kind of even them out? Gators and panthers, they're probably not gonna bother you. We are about to go through the Ocala National Forest, which actually has more bears than the Smoky Mountain National Forest. There's a ton of black bears. Now they're smaller, they're typically scared of humans. Hoping I see my first bear on trail, because I went the whole AT and never saw a bear. But as far as safety, I'm not really sure. Somebody asked, is the winter bug free? No, there are still very many bugs here. Namely mosquitoes. They're really not that bad as long as you're moving. I typically don't spend too much time outside of my tent. At the end of the night, I get my tent set up, I eat something quick, and I get in my tent, because otherwise the mosquitoes will come and find you. But knock on wood, I have not seen any no-see-ums or chiggers or anything like that. It's really just been some mosquitoes here and there, so they're not terrible. Due to the possibility of wildlife, how's the security of your food differ compared to the AT? I am a bad example of food safety, because I never hung a bear bag on the AT. Whoops, I slept with my food, which, you know, don't do that. Don't do as I do. But we did buy some bear line today. We do plan on hanging our food in Ocala, just because everybody's been talking about these bears. So we do plan to hang our food. Definitely will keep you guys updated on the bear situation. Any hostels or hiker camps like the AT? No hostels yet, but there have been a couple churches that have let hikers come in. They don't even ask for donations. I mean, they're just amazing folks. And like the last place we stayed at was pretty much a hostel. They let hikers sleep on the ground. You know, they have all the facilities and stuff. No hostels yet. I think there are a couple up north, but I don't know. We'll see. What temperature bag are you using? So I get cold. I am a little baby when it comes to cold. So I have a 20-degree bag. It's definitely overkill, but for the nights that it's dipped down into the upper 30s, I really loved my 20-degree bag. It saved my butt, and I am ready and prepared if the temperature ever drops down below freezing, or, you know, at freezing here. But it does get a little bit warm, but I have a quilt, so I can just kind of drape it over myself like a blanket, or I can sleep on top of it. So I just kind of make it work. Are your feet wet like all the time? Any different ways of handling that versus the AT? So my feet are wet a lot on this trail, and I struggled with blisters. Y'all remember my big old heel blister at the beginning of the trail. So I've made some changes for that. And I've actually switched to an Injinji liner sock. Before I had just the regular trail Injinji socks, which are a little bit thicker. And I also have a pair of Darn Tough socks, which is what I wore through like Big Cypress and stuff. And I think I have those on when I got the heel blister with the Darn Toughs. But I switched to the Injinji liner socks, and again, knock on wood, since I've done that, I've not had any new blisters on my feet. And I think it's because the material is a little bit thinner, and so it doesn't rub as much as the thicker materials when my feet get wet or the sand gets in my shoe. Because yes, your feet get wet, but you also have to take into account a lot of what you're walking on is sand. So in addition to wet feet, you also have sand in there. So as your feet are drying and you're walking, you're also having sand friction up against your foot. So I think that's what was causing a lot of the blisters before. It would get trapped in that thick sock and not be able to breathe. It's also very hot, so with the thicker socks, I feel like my feet were sweating a little bit more, even when they weren't wet, and they also weren't drying out as fast. So with the liner socks, the sand doesn't get stuck in the sock. It just kind of falls out and it's in my shoe, but it's not actually in my sock. Like, I still have sand from Big Cypress in my Darn Toughs. Like, it just lives in the sock now. But the liner socks, they also dry really fast. So I can set them out in the sun for like 30 minutes and they'll be dry because they are so thin. And I wore the liner socks on the AT as well. They were the long black socks I would wear. Those are actually Injinji liner socks. And I never got blisters on the AT. So if I do get any tender spots, I put the moleskin on and then I wrap it with Leukotape, and that has been taking care of all my blisters. So that's worked out really well for me. Are you going east or west for Central? I'm going east. What's the average length of hike before resupplies? I think the longest we've gone is like 3 days, but there's so much food opportunities here, and it's so easy to hit like a 25, almost 30 mile day here, so you can really cut down your days in between food. But you don't have to carry much food on this trail at all because there are so many convenience stores and just towns along the way that you can resupply at. So yeah, that's been nice. Will James walk any of the trail with you? Yes, he is planning on coming towards the end of my hike when I'm in the Panhandle. Hopefully he'll be able to take off about a week from work and hike the last little bit with me, and we can finish together. So I'm looking forward to that. How many cows have you said hi to? An infinite number of cows, and I never get any less excited seeing a pack of cows. We see cows every day, and they're so cute. They're so curious. They just stare at you, and like a lot of them will like come up. Are there other hikers out there? Yes, we've actually been kind of catching up to the Nobo bubble. They actually have a kickoff event. It's the first week in January, so we started a week after that, and we're kind of starting to gain on some of the slower Nobos from that pack, and we've met some really cool people, and honestly, we've met a lot more thru hikers than I initially thought we would, so that's been cool. How's your heel blister doing? It is pretty much completely fine now. The skin's a little weird, but it's all healed up. It's good. A lot of people also asked how I healed the heel blister. So when it still had liquid in it, I put a hydrocolloid band-aid on it, and that pulled out all the moisture. I made sure to go into town 2 days in a row so that I could clean it out after hiking and let it air out at night. And we also dropped our miles down. We did like a 13 and a 15 whenever the heel blister was bad. But I'd put the hydrocolloid band-aid, I'd hike with it, it'd kind of give it a little bit of cushion, and then I'd Leukotape over it. We ever try to link up to the AT on the Pinhoti Trail? Yes. I do plan on doing the Pinhoti. May or may not be planning on doing the Pinhoti after this trail. Stay tuned to find out. Why do some people start from Key West? Isn't that a thing? So most people who start from Key West are trying to do the ECT, the Eastern Continental Trail, and go all the way up the Appalachian Trail and up into Canada. I drove the Key West section this summer when James and I went to Key West, and I really have no desire to walk it. Maybe I will at some point just to connect all my footsteps and say that I section hiked the ECT. But that wasn't really my goal for this hike. What's your average mileage per day? So not counting zeros, we're doing about 17 miles per day. How long is the Florida Trail, and what part of Florida does it cover? Thank you for asking. I realize that I should have put this at the beginning, but here's a map of the Florida Trail. The sections that I'm doing, it's going to add up to be about 1,100 miles long. But as you can see, there's a bunch of other connector trails that are part of the Florida Trail, and it all adds up to about 1,500 miles total. So you could do up to 1,500 miles of the Florida Trail, but I will be doing 1,100 miles from Southern Point to the Northern Point. Anyways, guys, okay, well, I answered most of y'all's questions. I'm stoked. We get back on trail tomorrow and we'll do the Orlando section. So we're basically walking through the city, which is gonna be cool. There's a couple restaurants and like ice cream places that we're gonna stop at. Thank you guys so much for watching and coming along. I love each and every single one of you. Appreciate you guys, and I will see you tomorrow on trail. Bye.